is that pageantry is not a job.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
Did I know that? Maybe not.
Yeah, so it's not a job. It's not a career.
I'm just curious. Do you think that there is a difference?
Well, if I won in the Western countries and I also won here in Asia, then
that
maybe
means you're the perfect specimen.
No, I'm just kidding. I also thought that
just about like, the outward appearance.
Yeah, just like look good on stage, whatever. And I thought like, I'm like so focused on education.
I have brains.
I've been thinking about like in the future, if I were to name my kids, like I want to name them weird
like
names.
Northwest.
Maybe not Northwest, but Southeast.
Southeast? Okay. That works. Yeah, I don't think that's taken yet. All right, guys, welcome back to FUNDAY Chat. My name is Wade, and today we have a very special guest. We are joined with Miss Taiwan, and she has also recently joined the competition for Miss International. She's currently a performance arts master's student, and she is also mixed, just like myself, but she's half Taiwanese and half American. Mm-hmm. So welcome, Oceana.
Yay, hello everyone. I'm Oceana.
Oceana, okay. Can you tell us about your name? Because I think the first time I heard your name, I was like, whoa, I never heard of a name like that. It's so unique.
Yeah. Well, my mom just likes the ocean. And so she was like, actually, Oceana is originally Greek. Oh. Like it's a Greek name. I think in Greek, they pronounce it Okeanos.
It sounds like Japanese. Okeanos?
Okeanos,
Okinawa?
But so like but in English I guess you pronounce the C, so it's like ocean with an A at the end, and she just really likes the ocean, so she just wanted to name me something related to that.
Do you like your name?
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I like the ocean too. So the first time I heard your name, I was like, wow, that's a
I like nice unique names actually. I've been thinking about like in the future, if I were to name my kids, like I want to name them weird
like
names.
Northwest.
Maybe not Northwest, but Southeast.
Southeast? Okay. That works. Yeah, I don't think that's taken yet. Well, so like I've mentioned, you are Miss Taiwan.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit, what does that mean? I don't know if people even maybe know. Do they know that we have a Miss Taiwan?
Yeah. So, Miss Taiwan, Taiwan 小姐, right?
台湾小姐.
So it's like it's a pageant, beauty pageant. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we represent Taiwan at international competitions. So I competed in Miss International. It was last year, 2024, in November. The final was at Tokyo Dome.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, big stadium. And there were 70-something contestants. Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really fun. We were there for like 2 weeks or so. The whole competition was 2 weeks. We had a bunch of events. We went to a bunch of cities in Japan. We had we ate really good food.
Yeah, you showed me some of the pictures. Incredible.
So as like for the result, I actually broke the record for Miss Taiwan. I was the first one to get into the final, like as a finalist.
Wow, how many finalists are there?
This year's 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So, out of 70, that's...
Out of 70 something. And I ended up 13. Like my rank is 13, which is the highest score Miss Taiwan has ever gotten.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. Well done.
Yeah.
So, okay, talking about pageantry, because I would say you're the first Miss whatever that I personally know.
Right.
And so I think my only perception and what I know of is like what you see in movies, and or sometimes obviously you see things online and but never really taken a deep dive into it. So for me, I know there's definitely a lot of misconceptions. And I would assume maybe a lot of guests and viewers would also have similar misconceptions where maybe all we think it's just girls trying to be pretty,
right.
and everyone's just, look how beautiful I am, and like, and so I think the reason why I sort of have this kind of understanding is just, in more recent days when you have seen, when you actually listen to what these contestants are talking about or the questions that they would ask, some of them are pretty deep.
Yeah.
And so, like that's where I was like, oh, wait, they kind of have brains too. It's not just beauty. It can't just be the one or the other. So I'm sure there's a lot of misconceptions. So can you tell us, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have?
So I would say two of the biggest, which are actually kind of tied together, is number one is that like the most common one would be, girls in pageants are,
Superficial. Yeah, all about the
yeah, like
looks.
unintelligent or uneducated, superficial. Like all they know how to do is just look
pretty.
beautiful. Yeah, look pretty on stage. And then the second, which is kind of tied to it, is that you don't really need to do anything in pageants other than just stand there.
Right.
But actually, there's a lot of work, and so I'll get into it.
Yeah.
But so for the first one, I would say, so at Miss International, I met so many amazing women, and what I mean amazing is there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's CEOs, or like they own companies.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So actually, no.
So that was just their part-time? I mean, like full-time?
So, okay, yeah, I guess this is another misconception, especially in like countries that don't have, like they don't place emphasis on pageantry as much, is that pageantry is not a job.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
Did I know that? Maybe not.
Yeah, so it's not a job, it's not a career. I mean, there are girls that start their career from it. Yes, there are, and like I respect it. But like I would say most of the pageant girls that I know, actually it's honestly more of like something they do for fun. Oh. Which is what I do. Like for me it's something outside of my job.
Gotcha.
I mean, because I'm in entertainment, like I do acting and performing, I guess in some way it does help, right? With like building an audience or whatnot, exposure. But I didn't join pageants for the sake of building my career. I was already working in entertainment before I joined Miss International.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's another misconception.
Yeah.
But so going back to, like I said, like people are very actually... the most amazing women I know that are so driven, so educated, they speak multiple languages, I met through pageantry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And another thing with like the other misconception I was talking about, how pageantry, you don't really need to do anything. There's a lot of work actually. And I would say it really is how you make of it. Because some people, they want like a big team that kind of does everything for them, which is good too. Like I'm happy that there are girls out there that, have big teams that are supporting them. Yeah. But at the same time, like there are a lot of people that are like me. I'm kind of like doing it myself more or less. And there's a lot of things to do. And I will say, like I have supporters as well. Like I had a lot of sponsorships in my gowns or photography or filming or whatever, but there's a lot of things I did myself too. So like, for example, for Miss International, we had to make a video for SDG.
Okay. What's
sustainability, SDG. So Sustainable Development Goals. It's set by the UN. There's 17 goals. Okay. And it's like stuff like environment, education, inequality, stuff like that. Gotcha. Okay. So it's basically like reducing inequalities or reducing like environmental, like. Yeah. Yeah. And we had to make a video on our projects that we're doing.
Oh, that obviously attributes to
the SDG goals, yes. And so I mean, obviously I could have hired a film team, film crew with a cameraman, all that. I would have to spend my own money. Wow. Unless I can find a sponsorship. But I was like, you know what? I could do it myself. So you
did it yourself?
Yeah, I filmed it's not very good.
Okay.
It's not the best. Okay. But I was like, well, I kind of want to do it myself. And
that's cool. Being hands-on.
Well, because it's more of like, through this process, I also learn. Yeah, like I learned basic video editing. I learned to like how to shoot myself and all that. Yeah,
storyline and all that.
And so like
film yourself, not
film myself. Yeah. But like so I've learned so much in pageantry, and like for my national costume, I didn't make it from scratch, but I added all of the beads myself. Wow. For most of my gowns, I add all the beading.
You know how to sew, or you learned how to?
I'm very good at sewing.
You learned how to because of it, or?
Well, I learned when I first started pageantry, which was 8 years ago. Wow. That's how I learned. And I learned how to do my hair and makeup through pageantry, all of that. Like, I mean, it sounds minute. Like, it sounds like small things, but when it's added together, and honestly, there's not a lot of people that are actually like good with stage makeup, stage hair, sewing, all this stuff. Like there's actually not a lot of people that are really good at it and can do it themselves. Yeah. Or like even with like backstage, something happens, you gotta immediately like get on it, fix it, stuff. So yeah, like pageantry is a lot of work actually.
I mean, it sounds like it after everything I've just heard. And I think, again, probably similar to the misconceptions that others have had, I kind of assumed that these aspects would have been covered by a team as well, you know, like having, so there are people who do it themselves. Which is pretty crazy. And again, like, it's not like you're making money off of what you're doing, right? Like it is an investment. In a way, because
so this is why I said, I mean, it's not a career for many reasons. One, you can't do it for a long time.
Right.
Most of the pageants, they have like an age restriction.
Age restrictions? Okay.
Yeah, for most of them. There are a couple that can also do like misses, like married women or whatever. Miss Universe does allow any age. Now, like recently they changed it.
Yes, I thought I remember hearing some news about like the oldest, I don't know if it's a Korean lady.
Korean, Miss Korea.
So
she was like an 80-year-old grandma. And I think it's good. I think it's nice that they're doing that. And they also allowed mothers as well. And married women, which previously wasn't allowed.
That's interesting.
That's why I said it's not a career, because usually there's an age restriction.
Right.
That's number one. And number two, I mean, you're not actually making that much money. I mean, first of all, even if you are, usually you have to win. You have to.
And there's only one
winner, or you get like top 5 or something like that. You get a little bit less. So so like usually you have to win. So, I mean, most people are not making money. Career, it's more of just a hobby, to be honest.
That kind of makes sense now.
Yeah.
Well, so, okay, then can you walk us through how did you even get started? Because you said you started about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And where was this?
So I started in the States when I was in high school.
So I mentioned you're half, right?
Yes.
So maybe give us a real quick timeline. Where were you born?
So I was born in the States, and then I moved to Taiwan when I was 9. That's when I first started, you know, like learning Chinese and connecting with my culture here. And then I moved back when I was like 14, 15. And that's when I started doing pageantry.
How did you start? Somebody was like, "Oh, pretty girl," like put on a crown, and you're like, "Oh, I want to do this for a career."
No, so like I said, I was here from the ages of 9 to 15, right? So at that point, I was doing elementary school, and at that point, I was like really kind of used to the more Asian education style, where it's a lot more like. You just accept information. Just take in all the information.
Take in and study.
And so we don't, there's less of like self-expression or like being able to, you know, have discussions,
own thoughts.
Even debates or thinking individually. So when I went back to the States at like 15 or so, I was really not used to, like I jumped straight into high school and I was scared. Like I was like, what is going on? Like, don't ask me anything in class. Like I have no opinions.
Right. And Americans are way more expressive.
You have to be able to, and at least in that culture. So I was really not used to it. And my mother, she was like, hey, how about we do something that like kind of gives you that training and being able to express yourself on being on stage in front of an audience, all that.
Wow.
And so my mom thought, well, pageantry is kind of a perfect like training because it's very well rounded. I joined through the Miss America system. So Miss America, they do talent. They have scholarships. Like they look at what school you're going to, your grades, all that. They have scholarships for it. They have like volunteering awards as well. Like, so yeah, Miss America is like a really well-rounded organization. And so my mom thought it's like perfect training. For me to be able to kind of put myself out there, go on stage, express myself.
How did you feel though?
I was scared, obviously. I was scared. And at the beginning when I first joined pageantry, honestly, I kind of had like those misconceptions that we talked about earlier.
Right.
I also thought that, it's
just about like, the outward appearance.
Yeah, just like look good on stage, whatever. And I thought like, I'm like so focused on education.
I have like, brains.
But then I realized it's not. And so gradually I started to enjoy it. And so, once I finished the first one in the States, I joined Miss Chinese Toronto in Toronto during my college years when I was in university.
Canada.
In Canada, yes. And I was going to go to an international, like I was going to represent the Toronto area to go to the international competition, so Miss Chinese International in Hong Kong with the TVB program.
Yeah.
But it was during COVID. So the international competition got canceled.
Wow.
And that's kind of why, like, I just really wanted to have like a wrap up with
that experience.
Yeah, like have an international competition experience.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you just said wrap up. Does that mean that like these competitions are like a once-off thing, or can you keep doing it?
So to join that specific organization, so I joined Miss International. I can only do Miss International once in my whole
ever?
life. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Why?
Like,
do you know the reasoning?
That's just how pageants are. I don't know. Like, like if you represent a country or a territory or whatever, and you go to an international competition, you just have one chance.
Wow. I guess it makes sense because obviously, I mean, there's a lot of beautiful people out there and there's also a lot of talent. And so maybe it's like this opportunity that everyone can get represented.
Yeah, that too. And also maybe like at that point, it can also come into like, oh, is it fair or not if one girl has already come, because it's an international competition, right?
True.
So like,
Makes
I mean,
sense.
with the local ones, I know for a lot of local ones, like for Miss America that I was in, for the local ones, you can join as many times as you want.
Oh, okay.
But once you represent a state, like once you get to, like, let's say you got Miss New York, Miss California, you can only go to Miss America once. You can only represent that state once, unless you
go to a different.
Can't go to a different state. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So, well, with that, you've mentioned that, you know, that you've been part of the, let's say, the Western system of being in America. And then obviously more recently, you've been back and you've represented Asia. I'm curious to know, like, do you see that there's a difference in the beauty standards in terms of Western and Asian culture? Like, are you judged differently? Like, I'm just curious. Do you think that there is a difference?
Well, you know, if I won in the Western countries and I also won here in Asia, then
that
maybe
means you're the perfect specimen.
No, I'm just kidding. But I would say, I mean, I don't know, like, because when it comes to pageantry, especially new age pageantry, we've all kind of shifted our focus a bit. I would say back then it was very much like the pretty girl wins, maybe, like back then, several years ago, several decades ago. But now it's like, it's a full package. So instead of just looking pretty, because pretty is subjective, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, honestly, nowadays we can, like, everyone's pretty in a way, in their own way. So it's now it's more of just like being able to express your own beauty and like kind of share that with other people, like share your strengths, what your thoughts are, etc., your education, your intelligence, how you carry yourself on stage, your presence, right? So nowadays I would say like pageantry is like that now. So yeah, I would say like in both in Asia and in Western society, they're all sort of shifting towards that.
Okay.
Yeah. But I would say in Asia, maybe there are some aspects that are slightly still more, like maybe slightly still more traditional in a way. Like they want girls to, I guess, like maybe look skinnier or stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because talking about that, I think that's always been sort of a pressure that I've heard from my friends, especially female friends, that would have to either come back to Taiwan or that are living here. I mean, we constantly get the question of like, "Hey, 你怎么最近好像 这样?" Or like, you know, so that's where I feel like there is this difference, because in the States it's like, hey, embrace who you are. Like, even if it's a little bit unhealthy, you know,
the thing is like, the thing is in the States, they had that phase too. Like in the past, it was like, oh yeah, you have to be skinny, you have to have like a tiny waist, blah, blah, blah. And then it took time for US to become like, you know, more accepting or like,
but also I personally feel like sometimes you can overcorrect.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's the case with America, but
yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. But I know that just there's a lot of pressure that goes on with Asia when it comes to, you know, like looking good or like even dressing up well, because people, I think the first appearance with the Asian culture about 面子 and how you present yourself is a big aspect.
I would say like in pageantry though, like there's still that kind of mold for pageant girls. Like usually they're all pretty skinny. They have good,
But I do appreciate, I think, what you're saying, that it's shifting towards maybe not just the outward appearance of how pretty you might be. I think
more how you present yourself.
How you present yourself. I think there is such a beauty in like seeing a woman that, or you know, guy, whatever, like, but a person being like very elegant or being confident in who they are. And that's attractive, right?
Yes,
I think
exactly.
That's something that's beautiful. So one other topic that I'd like to touch on is there was this kind of like scandal, saga, whatever you want to say, that was going around with a Japanese Miss Japan competition, and you're aware of this, but just for our audience, I'll give them a little bit of the backstory in that Miss Japan, was it, what age group was that, or is it just?
I'm actually not sure, because that Miss Japan, there are several different organizations. So that Miss Japan is different from the Miss Japan that I competed with at Miss International.
So one of them. But they looked fairly young. And it was a Ukrainian-born person that eventually won that competition. Now, she had been there since the age of 5, and she was naturalized, right? So she was this Japanese. I mean, she gave the speech in Japanese, her acceptance speech and everything. And so she understood the culture. She was part of it. And for us being mixed, I would say like, I identify with also like, hey, I recognize that this is my country, right? And so it's interesting because later on, she did have to relinquish the title, but not for the reasons that we thought. It was because there was a scandal between her and another married person. And so it's like things like that, that you know, that became a big news. Now, my curiosity here is more, what do you think about a person who's not ethnically representing necessarily, you know, like if we just looked at her, I would say like she's, you know, a white person, right?
Wouldn't
Ukrainian.
Think she's Japanese, even though she might consider herself as Japanese or
like,
something.
What's your thoughts on that? Like,
so like, it kind of depends on which country you're competing in, because like in the States, you're not going to see like a white person, you're going to be like, wait, you're not American. Or you're not going to see a black person, wait, you're not American. So like, it depends on which country you're in. Because like with those countries that have, you know, like any race, like mixed race, right? That's normal.
That's so true.
But I would say in a lot of Asian countries or Asian societies, I can understand why she might have faced a lot of hate or backlash. Because I mean, Japan's quite a, what is it called, like homogeneous society. And so to them, maybe they just felt like, well, you don't look like us. You don't like, so like, they don't feel like she's Japanese. Representative of them, even though she technically is naturalized and is citizenship-wise is Japanese. And maybe she even considers herself culturally as Japanese too.
More than Ukrainian.
But I think it's really just the situation that you're in. If you're in a more like homogenous society, then you're going to face the backlash to some degree.
I agree with that, because I think even if I think about my own country, like the other aspect, so with South Africa, we're so diverse. So we've had, you know, different representatives. Like, you know,
exactly.
Mixed person. African,
But I would say, like, even with Miss Taiwan, I have actually gotten comments that I'm not like
local enough
or something.
Actually, I was going to ask you that. Because you're half.
I'm half.
So how?
I'm like mixed, but like, I don't know, because I mean, I'm Taiwanese. Like, I don't know what to say about that.
Right.
Like,
how does that make you feel though? Like, do you feel like they don't fully see you in a way, or?
It's kind of like, why are you denying half my race or whatever? Like,
or part of my identity.
Part of my identity. It's like, but I don't know. Like, I can understand it sometimes too, because I would say, like, yes, I do sound different. Not in terms of, because I speak Chinese fluently. But I do sound different in the way that I speak, right? And then the way that I think as well. Like, I'm not fully, because the way I grew up, I didn't fully grow up here my whole life. So, I will speak differently. I will, like think differently. So I can understand that maybe sometimes they would hear me speak. They would hear, like, you know, my behaviors, and they would
Right.
think, wait, she's not the same as me.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I mean, I still consider myself as like from Taiwan because my mom is from Taiwan.
Yeah. I also experienced similar stuff. And I think that will just start changing over time because as we globalize even more, as people start to experience and like become more open to different cultures, I think, we can. But I think I appreciate what you said earlier, just that when we're representing, you know, in whatever capacity, it's more about like how you represent yourself. Nobody's perfect, so everybody has their struggles. They have things, you know, skeleton in the closet, as you would say. But what do you think of the pressure that comes with kind of being in the pageantry of the perception of being perfect?
Yeah.
That you almost can't do anything wrong, or if you did something wrong, then, you know, oh, she's not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, did you feel that pressure?
Yes. So I would say it also kind of, I would say the way that I got into pageantry also kind of influenced how pageantry has changed me. Okay. So, because I got into it in order to become more like sociable in a way and like be able to express
Confident
myself and be confident. And so in a way that process has made me use pageantry as almost a crutch. Because, you know, I moved around a lot, right? So like every time I move, I have to like readjust my social behaviors to adapt to the local, culture. And it was a struggle for me. And so I think when I first went back to the States, I used pageantry as a crutch to like kind of build up a shell to make myself look, oh yeah, I'm super extrovert, super outgoing, super bubbly. I can talk about anything with you. Like, so that kind of made a shell. And yeah, I kind of used it as a crutch. And so I think till this day, to some extent, that is still weighing on me. And so I still had that idea of that, like, oh, people are judging me. People are looking at me, how I talk to them, my facial expressions. I have to like, you know,
constantly,
make sure I look confident, even though maybe I'm stressing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think that still follows me to this day. But I would say, like, as I'm growing older, I am trying to take that down. And be more genuine.
And find the balance, right?
And find the balance.
I think it's a good skill to have.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You're never.
It depends.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Have a balance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Now, talking about like, you know, skill sets and things that you've learned on pageantry, what's something that, because basically you're saying you're finishing up your pageantry kind of like career. Yeah. So what have you learned from that you're taking into, let's say, the real world, and you're studying performing arts, and so that's going to be your career, right? What can you take into that?
I would say, I mean, honestly, the idea of like solving issues when you face it, like, you know, because you're always going to have issues backstage and you have to fix it immediately.
Yeah.
Like working under pressure. I think that's something that I've gotten really used to.
Okay.
Because I think of pageantry as a performance, not just a competition.
Yeah.
I think of it as a performance.
Yeah.
Working under pressure, being able to fix things immediately, that's something that I still use till this day. And then I would say what I just said, like with interpersonal skills, being able to interact with people and still seem put together and confident. Sometimes
even if you're nervous.
Yeah, sometimes you kind of need that.
Yes.
But also, like, I don't know. Like, I think those are the main things that I bring into my own career.
Yeah.
Outside of pageantry. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, because I think those skills are essential, and I think many of us, you know, only later on in life do you kind of figure that stuff out.
Right.
And yeah, I think the quicker you can kind of like get those, but then find the balance.
Yeah.
On like, also when is it okay to kind of like be somewhat vulnerable, to be real with people, to make the real connection. Yeah. That's great. So to close off here, now that you've been in Taiwan, what do you think Taiwan has given you, or what have you experienced in Taiwan that you personally really appreciate?
I would say, so I was first born in the States and I grew up there until I was about 9, right? So I would say like back then I was just a really normal kid, like like a basic kid, like NPC.
Yeah. Just
like
talk to you.
Yeah, like honestly, I didn't really have any strong interests.
Okay.
I wasn't particularly good at anything. I wasn't good at like academics. I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't good at like arts, just anything.
Okay.
Just so basic. But once I came to Taiwan, though, I started focusing a lot more on my academics. I think because the environment kind of
and
pushes
demands
you
that
to
of
do
you.
that. Yeah. So I focused a lot more on my academics. I had the opportunity to join a lot of extracurricular activities.
Such as?
So I started a lot of things in Taiwan, actually. I started guzheng. I played the Chinese zither.
You know what?
String instrument.
Yeah, I was doing some research, right? And
On me?
Yes, before our conversation, and I did find a video, a very short one, but just of you playing.
Yeah.
And when I knew that you played, but I was like, I mean, how can you be, right? And it's like ding ding, and but you're very legit. It's kind of crazy. How many years have you played?
I started in I think like when I was about 10 or 11.
Wow. Okay. So you've been playing for over
Taiwan,
a decade.
Yeah.
So you're actually good, like for real. That's a
I
crazy.
have certifications in it too.
Yeah, that's a crazy like hidden talent, I would say. Not a lot of people would assume, right?
True. And especially since I look kind of foreign.
Imagine you just walk up and you're just like, oh, guzheng, and you're like, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's so cool.
And so, I played the Chinese zither, and that I learned it here in Taiwan when I was a kid. I also started getting into equestrian when I was in Taiwan as well. Horse riding. I ride horses.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of things that I love, like sports. I'm not a huge sports person, but I do like playing badminton and. I mean, Taiwan's good at badminton, so you kind of have to. It's like the rite of passage, you know? So I guess I did Chinese dance, like a traditional dance, like Chinese dance, you know?
How does that
go? Because I did.
With like the fan or what?
That's part of it, yeah. So I did ballet when I was in the States, like when I was younger. And then when I came to Taiwan, I started doing like those traditional dances, like Chinese dance. Yeah. So a lot of the talent that I know today, I started in Taiwan. And so to me, like Taiwan gave me a lot of things, a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills.
Yeah.
And so, I would say like to me, Taiwan is like a place that has made me grow a lot. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I think in a similar way for me personally, I see Taiwan as a place that's given me so much more opportunities than I personally could have imagined for myself. And again, similar to you, being at different countries, not that there aren't opportunities, because I think, again, America is the land of opportunities. And so you can really have an idea, be driven and like succeed, the American dream. But I think in Taiwan, like especially for people like us, like nowadays, it's kind of like our oyster, right? Like that we really are so blessed with all these opportunities. And again, Taiwanese people also being accepting and being a safe space. And I can very much identify with things that I experienced here. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this first episode of talking about your pageantry. I'm sure it's very insightful for the people. But we do have you for one more. And in this next episode, we're going to touch more about our mixed race background and what that looks like. And what has that experience been like for you? So do stay tuned for our next episode, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.